Another thing that we want to do, though, is to begin to think about, well, if we're going to use the people around us to help us to achieve the kinds of goals, what are the kinds of people we're looking for? And that really requires us to understand a little bit more about the nature of the relationships that we engage in with people in the world. And a lot of us don't really think about that very much, so I want us to focus on the three kinds of relationships that we have. If you think about your world, there are three kinds of people that you engage with, and we'll think of them as strangers, neighbors, and family, okay? Now, most people in the world that you engage with are strangers. And when I say that people are strangers, what I really mean is you don't know them very well, you don't really engage with them on any personal level, and whenever you have some kind of transaction with them, it's kind of a fee-for-service transaction. So think about going to the grocery store. The grocery store is a set of strangers for you. You don't really know them very well. You couldn't go in and borrow a dozen eggs from them, try as you might. It's cash on the barrel. You want a dozen eggs, you got to pay the price for it. Now, the flip side of that is you don't really engage in much of a social relationship with the people at the grocery store either, which is why it's so annoying when the cashier starts telling you about his or her day. Like you're standing there and they're talking to you, they're having a personal conversation with you, and you're like, just stop, right? Why are you annoyed by that? You're annoyed because you're engaged in a fee-for-service transaction. It's inappropriate. It's socially inappropriate to have this kind of personal conversation because we're not friends. We're not in the same social sphere. I'm here to get my stuff and get on. If we're going to have a conversation, I'm going to be able to borrow that dozen eggs, darn it, right? So that's strangers. Another way to think about this is just to drive this home a little bit. Imagine you're driving down the highway and one of your tires blows out, right? So now you pull to the side of the road, you jack your car up, and while you're in the middle of changing your tires, somebody in a big truck pulls up, gets out, and helps you change your tire, right? You may or may not do this, but it wouldn't be completely socially inappropriate for you to reach in your pocket and hand the person who helped you change the tire, hand that person a 20, right? Give them a $20 bill. They might refuse it. They might say, no, I was just trying to be helpful. But it's not embarrassing to do that, okay? The next group of people, actually, let's go to the extreme other end for a moment. Let's go to family, okay? Family is a set of people where you have a very deep relationship with them. You engage in lots of rituals with them. You engage in social interactions with them. You call all the time to find out how they're doing. You have this kind of social bonding with them. You celebrate life events with them, right? So there's all of this social glue. And as a result of all of these social interactions, family is a relationship where you will all do whatever you need to do for each other, largely without keeping score. So parents just give to their children. And ultimately, children may take care of their parents, right? Nobody's really keeping score. I always like to say that every family has this ne'er-do-well uncle, who's never been able to get his life together, and everyone else in the family is sort of supporting him, and it kind of becomes a family joke after a while. And I always tell people that if they can't figure out who that is in their family, it might be them. But the family isn't keeping score, right? The family isn't really saying, okay, eventually you're paying us back for this stuff. Everybody's just resigned to the fact that they're going to take care of this person in the family. And that's just what family does, right? Family is engaged in this set of relationships in which we give to each other without really paying attention to the give and take of that. Now, in the middle is a very interesting set of relationships, the neighbor relationship, okay? And when I say neighbors, I mean there's a set of people that we are in close proximity with, that we are socially engaged to, they're not strangers, but they're also not family. And so if you think about, for example, the neighborhood that you might move into, you move into a new house, your neighbors come over, they bring you like a banana bread, and to welcome you to the neighborhood, and then maybe, you go over and maybe you host a little party, you invite people over to your house, and then, somebody else has an event in their front yard, and, different people are doing different things. And by virtue of all of this engagement, the expectation is not a fee-for-service transaction, but it's also not a everyone will do everything for everyone else. So, your neighbor comes over one morning and sees you've got a flat tire on your car, comes over, helps you change your flat tire. You would never pull out a $20 bill and give it to your neighbor, right? That's just wrong. That just feels wrong. But you might drive your neighbor's kid to school, or cut their front lawn for them one day. There's kind of a general quid pro quo. Everyone is giving back to the neighborhood in approximately equal amounts. And in fact, in a real neighborhood, there's always that one neighbor who comes to the parties but never hosts a party, never really does anything for anyone, and eventually they kind of get ostracized by everyone, right? It might be you. I don't know. But that idea is that everyone is contributing approximately equally, not in the moment, but over time.